Evening everyone, welcome back. Now, I do apologise if I appear a bit of a sweaty mess. In my infinite wisdom, I've decided to walk up a fell on the hottest day of the year. It was 32 degrees when I set off, so I nearly taught myself out of doing this actually, because it's almost too nice barbecue weather really. But with the heat in mind, I thought, well, I don't want to sort of go up too high, so I've decided to do the walk up towards Haystacks, which sits above BUTTERMERE. Now, because I decided on a whim at the last minute, I'm doing the sort of cheat route a little bit by parking at Honest to Slate Mine, so it cuts a little bit of the ascent out of the walk. Now, I'm not probably going to walk up to Haystacks itself, simply because I've covered that area, you know, pretty extensively over the last 3 or 4 years. So I'm going to walk up to Green Crag and do a little bit of exploration around there and see if I can find something. Now, the sunset forecast was pretty good. I mean, it's been blue skies all day, but Clear Outside was saying that you know, there's going to be about 60-70% high cloud drifting over around sunset. So, you know, fingers crossed, with a bit of luck, you know, I might get a decent sunset. Now, I don't want to fill this vlog full of b-roll of me panting up a hill, which I'm sure you don't want to see anyway. So I'll catch you in a bit when I found something a bit more interesting. It is hot, really hot. Just stop for a quick breather. Just crossed the beck, just by, well, the first bothy that you come to. There's actually 2 bothies as you walk up Haystacks. There's Dub's Hut, which is that one. I just did a bit of a flyover with the drone, and then there's a second one, which is Warnscale Bothy, which is a bit further down the track. The amount of people, the amount of photographers as well, who asking me where Warnscale Bothy is, because they always, the first time they come here, a lot of them get lost. But for any photographers out there who are wanting to photograph the iconic bothy, as it were, basically go past the first bothy at Dub's Hut, follow the track down for another 300 yards and then cross the stream. The mistake a lot of people make is they cross the stream too early and get lost. So, little tip for you there. Now, I know it's a bit of an overrated cliche that you know, people always say, oh, it's the experience of being in the landscape that counts. It doesn't matter what type of photo you get, and you know, to an extent that's true, but when you come out on nights like this, yeah, I can believe it. It's absolutely superb. So yeah, if I don't get another picture, well, if I don't get any picture tonight, you know, it's been a good evening. Now, I'm going to just have a little scout around here, because even though I walk past this view all the time, I never actually bother to look at it from a photographic standpoint, because I'm always on my way up to Haystacks. So I'm just going to have 5 minutes here, and if I get anything, I'll show you in the next clip. Couldn't find anything there. Nothing doing. Sometimes a great view doesn't make a great photo. So you see what that is? That's good intuition. There's a reason why I've not been up to Green Crag before, and it's because there's nothing here. I've had a little scout about and I can't find anything, and to be perfectly honest, it's a little bit exposed here. I mean, the views down the valley are absolutely fantastic, but there's very little in the way of foreground interest, and if you come in for a sort of wide angle shot, you kind of need that really. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of shots available with a longer lens, but yeah, I don't think this spot's going to give me what I need. Now, the last place that I stopped at, couldn't find anything there either, so yeah, it's been a bit of a strikeout so far, but I've done this walk many times, and I know that, you know, the further along you go, you know, the views and everything get much better. So nothing lost. It's always worth having a look, you know, you never know. So I'm going to carry on. I'll probably won't walk all the way up to Haystacks, but I'll probably get most of the way up there now looking at this. Got about an hour till sunset, still plenty of time. and the cloud is actually doing what it said it was going to, which, you know, there's plenty of high cloud over here now, so, you know, fingers crossed we might get a nice sunset here. I must confess, I think I've snookered myself a little bit, because I ditched Green Crag and I ditched the first spot, banking on being able to find something along this ridge. And I think I've left myself a little tight for time to find something. Now, I'm going to maybe do a quick dash to the top of Haystacks. I've still got about 3/4 now till sunset, so we're not too bad. Clouds picking up nicely now. There's quite a lot of high cloud. It's one of these, though, that... And you'll know as a landscape photographer, you look out onto the horizon and it's that hazy at this time of year that you're never quite sure if the sky's going to light up or there's a big bank of low cloud on the horizon that's just going to snuff it all out. So it's looking 50-50 at the moment. We've got the high cloud, but I really don't know what's out at sea there. So fingers crossed we'll get something nice. I'll tell you what, that's the way to do it. I don't know if you can see behind me. I'll just spin you around just a little bit. Kids swimming in Ominate Tarn. I'll spare you the history lesson of it being Wainwright's resting place where his ashes are. But yeah, what a place for a swim. I wish I'd been up here when I was a kid doing that. Awesome. Right, I made it. Nick of time as well. Found an image, thankfully, saved the day. Now, since I last spoke to you, I've probably been up around this area for about a good 45 minutes, having a good look about and seeing what I could find. Now, what I think will be beneficial for you as the viewer is I'll walk you through the 3 different compositions that I sort of had a look at before finally settling on the last one. Now, the 3 that I worked through are all within about 30 feet of each other. So I've been very meticulously and slowly moving my way along and, you know, looking at the little sort of, I wouldn't say minor details, the sort of more intricate details of the shot and making sure it balances properly. I think what's best is I'll just do a bit of a voiceover for this bit, because I'll be able to articulate my thoughts a bit better. Okay, so just a brief sort of pause from the action. As I said, out in the field, I think this little segment's probably better done behind a desk where I can, you know, articulate my thoughts a little better and I'm not being distracted by all this nice light that was going on behind me. Now, I don't want this to be too exhaustive. I'm not going to go too much into detail with these images, but I just wanted to give you a little background as to my thinking and how I arrived at the final image. Now, this first image here, you know, you can see we've got all these, you know, lovely strewn rocks around that are catching the light. You know, so there's plenty of interest here. It's just really a case of finding something that balances this sort of distant view off towards BUTTERMERE and Crummock Water. That view remains the same right along the ridge line, so that isn't going to change. So really, I don't have to worry about that too much. But with this image, you know, I was immediately attracted to this patch of rocks here. You know, there's some really nice sort of jagged edges that, you know, straight away are quite attractive. But the problem I found after I took the picture was that really, to me, it felt like it was too dominant. It was almost a blocker to the rest of the scene. And the other problem was there wasn't really a natural sort of connection between the foreground and the midground. There's nothing really breaking this up, certainly in the middle of the picture anyway. So for that alone, I kind of rejected this one, even though the light's really nice. The second reason, which is something that if you come up here yourself and photograph, you've just got to be aware of, that obviously the line of the slope of the fell itself is tailing off down to the right, and it'll be in a lot of your images. Now, in this shot, I've not accounted for it well enough, and you know, immediately my eye is being drawn out to the right corner of the frame, which really isn't ideal. So for those two sort of simple reasons, I ruled this one out. So I moved about 30 yards to the left and came across this patch of rocks. Now I think this one works a little better. I'm a little further away from these, and as a result they're not quite as dominant. Now what I was looking for here is something to connect the foreground and the midground, and I managed to get that with these two rocks here. So, you know, we've got a bit better of a connection there. Now the other thing I've managed to do is eliminate that issue of your eye being drawn out of the frame. So by moving 30-40 yards, you know, this area here is a lot flatter now. It's not sort of pulling your eye down to the right as the other frame was. Now there's an argument to say that this image is maybe a little too wide. You know, you could probably lose a bit of the left and right here and go for more of a square crop or a 5:4. But all in all, I think this image balances a lot better than the previous one. Now after I took this, I thought, well, I'll see if I can find something else that works better, and possibly in portrait. So I moved about another 40 yards back to the right, and I came across this patch of rocks. Now, first thing that attracted me is these sort of repeating patterns in the foreground. Anytime you can get this sort of repetition, it's really going to help your composition. Also, we've got a nice bit of connection in the midground with these rocks here, so we don't have this sort of gap that we had in the first image. The other thing was that this was taken about half an hour later than the previous two, so you'll notice that it's not quite as warm an image as the other ones. Certainly in the mid and far distance, the colour temperature is a bit cooler, so the light isn't quite as strong and it's not as contrasty, which to my eye I think it's a little more pleasing. Now with all three of these images, you know, you've got this issue of shooting straight into the sun, and you're always going to face difficulties with flare just sort of spraying across the landscape a little bit in front of you. Now there's a fairly easy technique to get round that, which I think I alluded to in another vlog, is that you take this, I mean these are bracketed images, so they're all a series if you like, but I took a series of images just as a normal bracket with the flare, and then I took a second series of images with my thumb actually over the sun in the frame, and then when you get these in post you can blend the series of images together and you can just mask out the areas of flare because your thumb helps to sort of block that out. So yeah, those are the three images that I came up with. Be interested to hear what your thoughts are on this. I personally think that images 2 and 3 are much stronger images than the first one. My personal preference is probably this third one here that's maybe just shading it, but yeah, be interested to hear what you think anyway. Back to the video. Right, I'm going to try and make this brief because I've had about 5 goes at filming this. Yeah, sunset didn't happen, light was snuffed out. The cloud bank that I talked about was there, and yeah, no colour. So, not the end of the world. I mean, it's been a great evening. Just glad to be back up the fells. I mean, you know, this is the part of the Lake District I love the most, really, so it's been great. The shots that I got earlier, you know, I think they'll work pretty well. I mean, we've got some nice direct light in the foreground, and yeah, they're going to need a bit of a, well, they're going to be a bit of a faff in post-processing just to get rid of the flare because I was shooting straight into the sun. But yeah, they might work out all right. I mean, obviously, if I haven't posted them up, I'll post them up at the end. But yeah, I mean, that aside, you know, it's been a great evening. I mean, anytime you get to come up the fells above BUTTERMERE, it's, you know, it's always a pleasure. So even if sunset doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I mean, regards to the technical side of those images, you might have noticed I'm sort of keeping these vlogs fairly sort of tech free, if you like. I'm not really going into too much about apertures and ISOs and whatnot. It's not something that massively interests me. I'm very much a sort of reactive photographer, as it were, and I like to think that the technical aspect is more something that you learn ahead of time, really, and should become autopilot. But if people want to, you know a bit more about the technical stuff, I'm happy to put it in, you know, leave a comment, let me know what you think. But for now, I've just been focusing on the sort of capture and the moment of taking the photograph more than anything else. But yeah, I'm going to get moving because I've got to walk back, which is about an hour. As always, like, subscribe, all of that stuff, you know what to do. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one.